All right, we're in the Alchemy Schmiede, or the Alchemy Forge in English. Anyways, I've got this, it's a small one, old anvil. I found it at the junkyard. I believe it was a spike anvil to put into a stump. And it broke off here. So, what I think I've been meaning to do, I've got this nice tree stump for a stand. I'm going to cut off the end of this pickaxe, debating whether or not I should put it in the forge and just straighten that out, but I think maybe with the bend it kind of will hold better. I don't know, or split the wood better. Grind this down and attempt to weld it with my stick welder, which I have very little experience with welding. So yeah, that is my goal. I'm going to drill a hole here with an auger bit so I don't split the wood. I have some metal banding I will probably wrap around the log. It is a little bit lower than I'd like, a little bit under knuckle length. So I might use some 2x4s from some old pellets to make a base under it and just make it more solid on the ground, because there's a dirt floor here, so nothing's flat. It also makes it easy. You can kick dirt under stuff and make it flat. But I'm going to take a flat disc on an angle grinder and get this part level. Smooth that at least right here in the center. This anvil actually has quite a bit of, you can hear it even hitting the wood. A lot of ring to it. So I have plenty of chain to fix that, hopefully. Grind that down, then cut off. Probably I'm going to go all the way up to about here. I think that's plenty of depth to go into the wood to be secure. Hopefully. I just hope I can weld it successfully. So yeah, cut, grind, clean. Then we go to welding. Just move my stick welder down here. I've got a few electrodes. The numbers in Europe are different than in the States, so hopefully it works. Alright, so I got this cleaned up on the bottom of the anvil. This cut off. It's funny because I cut like halfway through and scored it and smacked it with a hammer and it wasn't working. Cut all the way through and it flung off in one of these buckets of scrap. I had to go find it. This is old pickaxe, so I might do something with this. Forge it out to a throwing axe, maybe. Anyway, I am going to attempt welding again. So I'm trying to find, I'm going to leave that curve as it is, kind of centered around there. I ground down the corners, just that's what I learned for welding. So it gives that little space to make a good weld, hopefully. And this is, find where it just sits best and makes sense for that curve to go into the stump and support it. So it is finished, almost. Unfortunately, I have to wait till tomorrow to mount it because all that hammering to put it in this stump is going to be a bit loud for midnight here in the barn. I tried to weld it, I don't know, 3 times. Pulled it apart, cleaned it, pulled it apart, cleaned it. Asked help. I was moving too fast. I was starting to wonder if my electrodes are just got wet or something. I don't know. I lucked out. My neighbor pulled up and I caught him and he welded it for me. He had an electrode. He tried it with mine. It didn't work. He had one he grabbed and said it's still very difficult with this old anvil. He said it's like goose icing, which is cast iron, but not. So I'm wondering if he means wrought iron. I can't remember the word for that in German. But, I mean, I tested it. It holds. It's going to go right into the middle of this stump. I already started the hole. Drilling it out a bit. I can't wait. I'm just glad it finally worked. Okay, so it's finally mounted. I drilled a small hole through the center of the log and just pounded it down. I put a 2x4 on the top and just whacked away. And got it down far enough where it's so secure. I could have driven it further, but I decided to put these little pieces of 2x4 on the sides. And let it hit. I didn't want it so low that I can't take advantage of what I'd really use this for, which are the edges for doing curves and folds and stuff like that. I finally got to use it today, and this thing is awesome. The only reason I went to my big Anvil was just to straighten pieces out for a bigger surface. But I did a lot of work on this just to make these, what do you call them? Side pieces for my sign for the forge. I'll put a picture up. It sounded like it was going to ring like hell. Once it mounted, still on the edges of the horns, it does have a bit of ring, but nothing obnoxious. The thing is solid and it's mobile, so I can easily pick it up and move it around, which is awesome. Right now I've got it on a couple 2x4s. That was another reason I put these here. I didn't want to drive it all the way in, and it was still like, if I stand and measure, it was a little bit too low for me. A few inches too low, which is fine. I can deal with that. But this is my arm hanging naturally. Fist level, hammer level. It's a bit low, quite a bit, like 4 inches. So I will put a base with 2x4s under it, and it's kind of an adjustable thing. I will be using this for a lot of lessons. This thing was found in the scrapyard, just left there to rust and be turned into whatever. I mean, the edges are nothing wrong with that. I cleaned it up a little bit, just very little. More just using it, it's going to clean it up more. There's so much potential in this thing. And I mean, I started out with the cheapest piece of railroad track and cheapest anvil you could imagine. That was super annoying. This thing, man, it was solid. Super, super solid. I'm very happy it worked. That weld held. It's been given a new chance in life. And that is an awesome find from a junkyard. You know, this is perfect for my situation where I can move it around. That is so cool. Without, like, breaking my back or needing a second person. My other anvil, yeah. Moving that, I need 2 people, and that still hurts. But this one is just... it's got these horns that I don't have on the other anvil. Anyway, that concludes this video. Also, the stand, I just give it some decorative burns. And this stump, I got it from work. We had it at the shotgun range there. It's holding up really well. I was thinking of putting bands around it. I was worried about the split here, but it's... I don't think it's going anywhere. If I see any concern, I might put some bands around it. Before I do that, what I really want to do is just put an old leather belt around it with some loops to just hold hammers and tongs. It's a really cool little additive to do. But yeah, this thing is, I don't know how old it is, but it's not young. It's a little beautiful anvil, and now it's got its new throne.